Hi, I hope you feel great and that you have a nice summer thus far. Last time I spoke about playing Summertime and I played it for you. This was a brand new concept which is called the Jazz Standard of the Month, and this is something I do through my jazz piano community, the Learning Jazz Piano community, so you can check that out. The link is down below if you're interested in that. It was super fun because now we played together, and this is a concept where we're going to play one jazz standard for 1 month, and that was for June, and for July 25 is going to be Body and Soul. And if you're interested in that, you can also check out the Learning Jazz Piano community. So today we're going to speak about Summertime, and this is like a reaction style because last time when I published the video of mine and people published their versions, and there was a lot of great interactivity together with the group, and that was super fun. Here you see some of it, and yeah, basically it was very fun. So we had several recordings from the group, and that was of course fun, but we also had a lot of people, they did not record themselves, and that is also totally okay. We had some specific instructions on what to do. So the first one was that it should be improvised, and you should use idea generation to execution, how to apply simple ideas as improvisation. And the second focus was playing walking bass lines, and the style and the tempo should be in a medium slow swing in 98 BPM, and then it should be played in A minor. And I also added some instructions about the form of the tune. The point is, it was super fun and very engaging, and I'm really looking forward to the next and upcoming challenges of the upcoming jazz standards. Now, before we get into the video, let's give a big shout out to our sponsor for today. This video is brought to you by Donner. If you're looking for an affordable and stylish electric piano, consider the Donner OURA Piano S300. They were kind enough to send me this keyboard, and I can recommend it if you are looking for a stable instrument to have at home. The piano is solid, and in my opinion, it looks good too. If you are playing in a big band, it's perfect since there is plenty of room for sheet music covering many pages. The keyboard feels solid and realistic compared to a grand piano, and features several sounds typical of jazz pianists such as piano, Rhodes piano, and Hammond organ sound. It can be challenging to find an affordable and stable electric piano, but Donner offers a good solution for under $1,000. So click the link down below to find out more and order your copy today. Now, the next thing we will do is to play my version of Summertime, but if you already watched it, you can consider skipping to the next chapter. But here is my version of Summertime. So that was my version of Summertime. Now let's go over it one more time, and then I'll comment on some essential things. This is about getting the big picture overview of some of the aspects of what is going on in the music, right? I do everything intentionally, but everything was 100% improvised, so keep that in mind. Nothing was planned in great detail, and that is, of course, how it should be when you play jazz piano. All right, so take it from the start. So in that vamp intro, I was using something called scale voicings. And if I rewind a little bit, you can see that I was playing an A minor chord of some sort, and that was just notes within the G scale. I was playing with my right hand very tight because I wanted this tight sound. But the concept is something I call scale voicings, because now you're just smashing down notes within the scale. At this point, I was just vamping with my left hand, and that was something I had sort of rehearsed. I had these chords in my mind, but when I prepared for this video, I played it slightly different each time I play those chords. But I hope you hear the irony of the way I play now, because this is supposed to be a little bit ironic, the way I play those chords. Because what I said last time is that I dedicate this video to people who need to cut their grass or do something completely different than practicing on playing piano during the summer, like maintenance of your house and so on and so forth. So again, that's what I had in mind when I played these chords. So let's rewind that and focus a little bit on the right hand now. Did you notice how I stretch the melody now? That is something I highly suggest that you do, and a lot of people, especially people who's not been playing jazz for that long, they cannot do this. But if you want to get a hang of it, I suggest that you listen to singers and how they are phrasing their melody. Because most jazz musicians, they're rarely playing and singing as it's written in the real book, right? The phrasing is super important, how you phrase the melody. If you paid attention now, you could tell that I was phrasing the melody behind the beat a little bit. Sometimes I play in front of the beat, sometimes I play behind the beat, and that makes a great vibe. So that's also something I suggest that you do. At this point, I started to add some walking bass lines, and if you look closely, you could also tell that I was also playing some tenths. So now I was playing the melody again and phrasing it a little bit differently, but more than anything, I implemented the walking bass lines on a consistent basis, and I think I did that for the most part throughout my whole version of Summertime. The way you play the melody the second time around can be a good starting point for your solo. All right, I was playing the melody again, but I'm changing the melody slightly, right? Because it sounds a little bit boring if you're only playing the melody as it's played in the real book or as it's been sung by somebody, right? So try to phrase your melody a little different, and also incorporate and add various notes. Don't just play the same notes as the original melody. Alright, so now I was slowly transitioning into my solo, but I'm still trying to keep it within the original melody. So when you're building a solo, you're starting with a starting point, right? So the starting point now was for me to play the melody and play similar to the melody, and I was playing it quite dark. And then at some point you need to add a contrast to that. That's what I'm doing now. So now I'm trying to play a little bit brighter as a contrast to the darker sound. All right, now I go into more bebop phrasing, right? So this is a typical bebop phrase that you can add, and I play the same phrase many times during my solo, and of course that's not planned, but that's just how it comes out, because you have a repertoire, and I have a repertoire, and that is something that comes out when you're playing, right? But my aim is to transition over to something that sounds a little bit more interesting to most people than just playing around the melody all the time. Again, adding another contrast because I was going through the classical bebop lines, and then I moved down on my keyboards, right? So now I play a little bit darker, but still keeping it within the bebop language. All right, stopping it again. What is the contrast of dark? That is bright. What is the contrast of playing just one note? That is to play two notes, and that is what I did now with my left hand. So I play now walking bass lines with tenths, because that gives a nice sound, in contrast to the bright sound which I play with my right hand at this current point. At this point, I added a fast line, and I think it was the diminished scale, but that is irrelevant right now. Just think of the big picture. So to summarize the big picture so far, it's about building a story, right? It's about making contrasts. And that's what I did. And now for the first time, I added a fast line into my solo. But then, of course, I got to say that if you only play fast lines up and down, it's going to sound boring very soon, because you need to add some contrasts, right? So you need to set the foundation, and then you build contrasts on top of that. And of course, to do so, you need to remember what you have played, and then try to experiment with something that sounds quite similar at first, and then something completely different to build the momentum in the music. This, of course, can be very hard to explain, because a lot of people ask, why do you play like that? And that is, of course, a long story, but the reason why I play like I'm playing now is through years and years of experimentation. There's no way around it, right? So if you want to be able to build a story in your solos, you got to experiment a lot. So let's rewind that, and this is the first time I add a brand new element to my solo, and that is also something I hold back on purpose. And can you spot what it is? Let me play for you one more time. That is, of course, an outside line, and you play inside within the scale most of the time, and then at some point you got to make some more contrast to how you play, and now it's about the time to add some outside lines. Or, of course, that is one way of doing it, which is exactly what I did here. Here I'm incorporating another element again, playing in octaves, which I don't think I've done thus far. So what I'm coming into right now is a concept that I like a lot, which I like to call dwelling. Because now you're dwelling with just a concept and you're playing that over and over. Let me show you what I mean. If you see what I play there, it's just an E minor 7, right? So it almost becomes like a chant of some sort. After the dwelling, I went into an outside line again, and then some mumbling line where I just play very fast on the white keys, descending. It's fairly easy to do, faster tempos. These three elements were connected in a totally improvised way, but the concept is that you got to make some contrasts, which I've said many times now. That is what this is all about. And that is exactly why this sus chord I played now sounds very open in contrast to what I played recently, where I was playing all these mumbling lines and dwelling chords. All of these are just made-up analogies. This is just to convey a point. It's not called that in the big theory book of jazz, right? This is just my analogies to convey the message for you to understand. So I think a good solo should have a peak at some point, and you got to build it up to that peak. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's my intention, right? So that's what I'm trying to do as I'm playing. Even though when I'm playing, I have no idea of what is about to come out. So that's always exciting for me to see. But now I try to build it up, and I add the walking tenths with my left hand, or I add the tenth as I'm playing the walking bass lines, and playing brighter and also louder. So those lines were quite in front of the beat. I don't know if you can tell. Let's rewind a little bit. That is something I find to be fun, not only to play behind the beat, but sometimes play in front of the beat. And of course, you need to multitask when you do that, because you're going to keep a steady left hand while you do that, right? So that can be a little bit tricky, but it's fun regardless once you get it. All right, now it's going completely bananas. I think it's getting pretty wild. This is, of course, inspired by Brad Meldo. The way that he plays arpeggios in his solos, I think that's amazing to listen to. So I try to do that sometimes, but I have no idea what I'm doing in that sense. So, of course, it's just my improvisation, right? I have done some experimentation on this in advance, even though this is not rehearsed. I have done this many times, and I've tried to build it up to that point where I play those arpeggios up and down, which I did very fast. Let's hear that one more time. So all solos should have a peak, and this was my peak, and I play this very fast line with my right hand, and to be honest, I have no idea which notes I was playing. It was just from the back of my spine or something. This is completely improvised. But regardless, I think it sounds cool, and if somebody told me, let's say 30 years ago, that in 30 years you're about to play like that, I would not believe them. Because to be able to do that, you simply just need to practice and practice and practice for many, many years and experiment a lot. And there is no simple quick fix or easy scale or lick I can teach you to be able to do this. But still, I hope you get my point. The point is now that you should try to understand what is going on, the big picture, and that will help you so much on your way. Let me play for you the ending now. So at this point, of course, I went back into the melodies. So if you're going to fly an airplane, you should be able to land that airplane in a smooth way. My son is very interested in planes, and when we are out flying, he always speaks about the way that the pilot is landing his plane. If you land it smoothly, he calls it butter landing. And that, of course, is also hard to do if you're a pilot and you're not trained. But in jazz, that's what we aim for. That's what we hope to achieve, to be able to have a good solo where you have a clear peak, you take it to the top, and then you land it like butter landing. All right, so the rest now is history, and I'm not going to bore you with the details of the way I played the ending. Now you are presenting the melody again, and then you go back to where you started, and that is in some way closing the loop, because you're starting at some point, you're building a solo, right, and you take it up to peak, right, and then you go back and sort of close the loop, so now you are ending on approximately where you started. That is a good recipe for success. Anyway, I hope you found this to be useful. This video was more a study on the big picture and how to build a solo. And again, I hope you found it to be very useful. And of course, you can join me and the rest of the group for the next challenge, which is about playing body and soul in a very beautiful way. So if you're interested in that, you can find the link down below. I wish you a very pleasant day, and I'll see you soon.